Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Katie, and today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in January. Alright everyone, so before I do my wrap up, I forgot to share my official finished picks for mine and Bethany's readathon this past month, which was Ring in the New Books. So I thought I'd share with you what books I read for each prompt really quick. So the first prompt was reread an old favorite, and for that one I read A Bride Most Begrudging by DNF'd. I did complete Genesis 1 through 11, which was our buddy read. The next one was What's Old is New Again. Read a book that was popular 30 years ago. And for that one, I read The Bungalow Mystery by Carolyn Keene because Nancy Drew is popular, like she still is. So you can pretty much pick anything by Carolyn Keene. The next prompt was Try a New Author, someone whose debut novel released during the last year. And for that one, I read Francis and the Monster by Refe Tuma. Free Space was Reader's Choice, and for that one, I read The Prince and the Blight by Kathryn L. Butler. Ring in the New Year with a new series, so I read When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Mayer. Read a book featuring a new theme, new beginnings, new hope, etc. And for that one, I read The Last Way Home by Liz Johnson, which was kind of like a redemption story, so like it's new beginnings and new hope, kind of. All right, and then read the rest of the book of Genesis. I did not do, but that's okay. And then Countdown to Midnight, read a book with a number in the title, and I changed my original choice from Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schulte. I read instead 12 to 22 by Jen Kalanita. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into my wrap-up. So this was an incredible reading month. I mean, for the first month of the year, I already hit my quarter goal. Like, my first goal on Goodreads is 100. I've read 25 books. And surprisingly, I only read 2 comic books. The rest were like middle grade or higher level. So I read 1 Archie comic book and 1 Charlie Brown comic book. I haven't read a Charlie Brown comic book in a long time. It was a nice change. But yeah, so those are kind of just my fun reads. I don't really talk about them, but I thought I'd at least share how many I read. So I read 2 comic books. That's still insane. So that means I read 23 books besides comic books. That's crazy. That is literally crazy. So apparently I had a really good reading month. I had a lot of 5-star reads, so that's good. I have most of my physical books. These are all physical books, and then the rest I don't have copies of. So let's go ahead and talk about them. So I need my reading journal. I just whacked myself with a ribbon. That's always good. All right. So let's go ahead and I didn't put them in middle grade section. I probably should have, but I read 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 middle grade books, and then the rest were either YA or adult. So that's not bad. A nice mix. And I also read 13 Christian fiction and a couple of regular adult fiction and a couple 1 YA. I think 1 YA. But I'm not sure this one was Christian fiction or not. I don't think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was. All right, anyways. So I had 1 1-star, 1 2-star, 2 2.5 stars, 4 3 stars, 6 4 stars, 1 4.5 star, so close, and then 8 5 stars. So a really great reading month. All right, and 2 DNFs, which I will talk about as well. All right, so let's start off with the DNFs. I changed my reading planner up. Last year, I put my book, my little book stickers, in order that I read them, but I realized that was throwing me off when I did my end of the month wrap-ups. So I will no longer be doing that. It's a new year, so I did it by star rating and helped a lot, didn't it? Should have done it by middle grade and stuff, but I'm not going to go that crazy. All right, anyways, so my 2 DNFs that I had, which don't count toward my reading goal, so they're not even on Goodreads. My first DNF was The Daredevils by Rob Bahia, and that was a middle grade book, and I was so disappointed with it. I mean, I get more and more disappointed with middle grade too, which is so sad. You know, as a Christian, you gotta be careful what your kids read, because I DNF'd this one. I had this one on as an ARC on NetGalley last year, so I'm trying to catch up. So I tried it. I would say no, because it was fine. It was about these kids, and like they were, I don't know exactly what they were doing. They were just hanging out, you know, playing around, and then they met this other kid who I'm guessing he's probably abused by his mom. I don't know, but they were starting to meet in the woods, and that's when it got weird. It was talking about doing like a ritual ceremony to like the spirits of the forest, and I was like, no. Flick that book right out of here. I am not in the mood for that. Nope. So I DNF'd it. I told NetGalley I am not reviewing this book. Nope. So yeah, I DNF'd it. I did not like it. So yeah, that's why. All right, and then the second book that I DNF'd was Food Triggers by Amber Leah. And I think I only DNF'd this because I don't think it was for me personally. I think like when I have food triggers, they only happen like every once in a while. I think it's just like, I think I need more of a book that talks about a healthy living style rather than food triggers. So I need to find a different book. So I DNF'd it because it wasn't for me, but maybe it's for you. All right, so on to 1 star. Only one, and that was Dawn Raid by Pauline Vega-Smith. And this was a book that takes place in New Zealand. All right, so I had to look it up. It was Polynesian culture when the Polynesians came and went to New Zealand, and it was kind of like a racial aspect of that, and how like they were kind of deemed unworthy to live in New Zealand. So, you know, and they had, it was kind of like, you know, the 1960s here in the US. And so I thought I was gonna like it because I do really enjoy books about different cultures and learning different things, but this one was so boring. There was only like a little bit of that cultural feel that I wanted. The rest of the book was literally a girl who was in school who wanted to buy a pair of shoes. That's it. It was basically her day-to-day life in a school, and she wanted to buy a pair of go-go boots. So yeah, it really did not have the cultural feel that I wanted. I found it really boring, and I was, you know, I wanted a good cultural feel. That one just wasn't it for me. So yeah, basically a story about a girl who's in school and wants to buy go-go boots. So if that's your feel, then you might like it, but I didn't, so yeah. All right, so the next book that I read, well, not next book because these are not in order, but my 2-star read was Francis and the Monsters by Refe Tuma. So I was actually really starting to enjoy this. This is a middle grade retelling of Frankenstein's monster. So it's about this girl who she's kind of left alone as her parents are traveling for their work and for their scientific discoveries and everything. And so she has kind of this new caretaker because like she keeps kind of escaping from her human caretakers. So her father gives her a robotic caretaker, but she ends up going into the attic and finding a secret room where she finds this mysterious creature and brings him back to life. So I kind of like that aspect. I really did enjoy that aspect of it, but I honestly don't know if they were pushing the envelope in this book. I couldn't tell, and that's why my rating went lower, was this girl, which I don't mind. She had a short haircut, and she was like dressing in boys' clothes. I mean, I dressed in boys' clothes when I was growing up because I played a lot outside. So I never wore dresses growing up. But when other characters mistook her for a boy, I was like, are they trying to push an envelope that they're not saying out loud? And so that's why I got a lower rating, because I didn't know. And also there was other parts where I was just kind of confused at where the direction was going. Like, she was trying to find the monster, but then like she got involved with the police, and then she met a friend, and I like the friendship between the two main characters. They each needed a friend because they had no friends, so I like that part of the story. But yeah, so other parts were kind of slow, so I had very mixed feelings about this book. So there's that. All right, let's go on to my 2.5 stars. So my first 2.5 star such a disappointment. So me and Bethany Brings Books did a ring in the new books, and I finished all the prompts except for finish Genesis. I wanted to try, but I never got to, but I did read Genesis 1 through 11. So anyway, so this one was for reread an old favorite and see if you have any new opinions. I'm so sad. I honestly thought this was one of my favorite of hers, but I haven't read any of her books in a very long time, so I probably mixed this one up with a favorite because I read Deanne Gist's A Bride Most Begrudging, and she is one of my absolute favorite authors, and I read this one and I only gave it 2.5 stars. But I think there's a reason behind that. This is her first published book, I believe, so that I can kind of understand that would probably be my lowest rated book out of all of her books, because I've read about 85 to 90% of her books, so that's probably the reason why it was so low. But she definitely is more of just historical romance. She doesn't have like a huge backdrop story, at least for this one. There is talk about the Native American Wars, so it does get a little violent in the end of the book, and loss of loved ones as well, just to give you a heads up. But yeah, so it's mostly about the romance between these two characters, and the beginning had me hooked. In the beginning, we follow our main character, who she went on a ship to America from England, and she was going to say goodbye to her uncle. But then she ends up getting kidnapped by the captain, and she's basically sent into like the I don't know what they're called. They're called like something brides or something, like they're traded, like bridal trades, but they're pretty much sold as brides. And so she ends up getting in this situation where a man like wins her from another man in a card game, and she doesn't know. So then he ends up having to buy her, and he buys her friend as well. So they don't get married, but then like the preacher and the guy who like initially was supposed to have her as a bride says, hey, if you don't marry her, I want her back. So he kind of has to, and so he marries her. And it is a Christian fiction, but I feel like at least this book kind of pushes the envelope like Francine Rivers does. So just a heads up. So it does get a little bit on the heavy romantic side, just a little. So I was like, whoa, I don't remember that. It's been a while since I've read that book. So yeah, and also I totally forgot, I've heard mention of other people mention about her books, is that she has like a fixation with ankles. And I totally forgot about that. But yeah, so like back then, women wore long dresses back in like the early 1900s, late 1800s. And so, if an ankle showed, it was like pretty brazen. And so she kind of like plays on that quite a bit in her books. And I totally forgot about that. So, but yeah, so 2.5 stars. It was quite a big disappointment for me, but it probably is because it was her first book. So, but her other books, I do remember really enjoying. So I'll probably pick up some more. All right, I gotta go back to my end of the month wrap up. There we go. All right, so my second 2.5 stars was The Titanic Tunnel by Glenn Blackwell. This was another NetGalley art copy that I had to get to. And this is the sequel to another book that I'm going to talk about later, which was a higher rating. But this one, it was just so slow. So we follow these two kids who end up time traveling. And I'm really hoping there's like a third book because it was quite confusing. So in the second book, they end up traveling to the Titanic before it sinks. And basically throughout the entire book, they're trying to find someone. She's trying to find her friend, who her friend ends up being mistaken for somebody else and like working in the galley. And so like she's trying to find him. They're trying to find 2 other kids that went missing because this little girl can't find her brothers. So basically it's a book about trying to find someone, because like literally every other scene was trying to find someone. So that kind of annoyed me. It's like, can't we just get together? Because like the whole entire book was trying to find someone. I'm like, we need some more context here. So yeah, there was that. And I feel like I would have liked to have seen more of like the goings on the Titanic. Like you see little snippets, but mostly you see what happens in the lunch and dining areas. And it's like, I want to see more. I want to see like the dance halls, or like the musicians, or like more of like everything, So there's that. And also there was this mysterious stranger who like kept showing up and trying to direct them, but like okay, he knows who they are and he knows what they're supposed to do because like they changed history from the first book. And so it's like, okay, like how do you know who are you? They have no idea who he is. So I'm like, okay, either write a third book or don't confuse me. So yeah, that's why that got 2.5 stars. All right, next one. We're going on to 3 stars. So 3 stars. The first one is The Treasure of Peril Island by C.W. James. And this one was pretty good. I think there might have been like 1 or 2 on the stronger language side. Like it wasn't like swearing, but like it's a little stronger from what I'm remembering. It might not have. But this is like a YA treasure hunting book. So pirates, treasure hunting. There's this mysterious old man who tells this kid that he's like a 200-year-old pirate who basically, I guess, was cursed to live longer because of something that happened on like this treasure island. So like he tells this young kid, hey, I have a treasure on this island. These pirates are trying to kill me and get the treasure. And he's like, yeah, right, you know, like a 200-year-old pirate, come on. So it's basically they're like kind of getting to know each other, and then he ends up going to try to find the treasure. And so it was pretty good. I did enjoy like the pirate aspect of it because I do love my pirates. I do. So I did enjoy that. It might be a little higher rating than a 3 star, 3.5 maybe. I don't know. It's been a while since I read it. Like I read it in the beginning of the month, so I don't really remember too much going into this review, but I did remember liking it. And if there's another book that, I don't think there is, I think it's a standalone, but I did enjoy it. It just wasn't a high rated book, I guess. All right, the next 3 star was 12 to 22 by Jen Calanta. Yeah, wait. Calanita. But this is a kind of a retelling of 13 going on 30. So this girl is 12 and she's just trying to I think the only reason I rated this so low was like, yes, I am a YouTube influencer, but I'm not in the whole world of TikTok. And this is literally like heavy on the TikTok references and heavy on Taylor Swift references, which I was never into Taylor Swift. Sorry. But it was heavy on that, and it is middle grade, so it was clean from what I remember it being. It is a secular fiction, but it was cute. And so yeah, this girl's 12. She like looks up to this TikTok account girl who I think she's a makeup artist, I think, but like she's got millions of views, and so this girl like she wants to like become that. So she ends up like making a wish on her birthday with a TikTok filter saying, I wish I were 22, which is a Taylor Swift song, supposedly. I don't know. Probably is. But she wishes she was 22 and famous and, you know, and pretty and everything. And so she ends up waking up and she's 22, and she ends up actually working for the girl who does the TikTok videos that she was following back in the day. So I liked the aspect of her kind of learning like people who appear to be your friends may only be using you. So she learns kind of like what she really wants in life. Like, does she really want to be an influencer, and does she really want this? And things don't go as planned. Like she starts out like, oh, this is great, I'm 22, this is amazing, but then things start kind of falling apart and she realizes that it's not all it's cracked up to be. So I did enjoy it quite a bit, and yeah, so if you like 13 going on 30 and you like Taylor Swift and TikTok, you'll like this. All right, next one that was 3 stars was Vanilla Vendetta by Posey A. Point. This is a first book in a cozy mystery series, and it was cute. So I am going to try to continue it. I might continue it in October or closer to fall, because cozy mysteries just feel fall and winter to me. But this was about a girl who is a secret agent, and her grandmother used to be a secret agent as well. And she's kind of on the run because her ex-husband or ex-boyfriend, one of those, was a double agent. And so she has to go on the run and hide. So she ends up going to her grandmother's inn, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? Because it's like, if he was your husband or boyfriend or whatever, wouldn't he know about your grandma? I'm just saying. So I don't know what's going to happen in the second book. But we follow her as she goes to her grandmother's place, and we end up finding out that somebody gets killed poisoned at the end. And so she's like, great, because I can't have any, any publicity because I'm in hiding. So she's trying to solve it without really being in the publicity. So it was pretty good. I don't read a whole lot of cozy mysteries, so this is kind of like my introduction to cozy mysteries. So it was pretty good, and I'll continue it and see what it's like. All right, so the last 3-star that I had was The Last Way Home by Liz Johnson. This is the second in her the Prince Edward Island series. Yeah, Prince Edward Island series. I liked it better than the first book, and the third one's coming out soon, so I'll probably continue it. But I don't know if Liz Johnson is for me or if it's just this particular series. This is the first series that I've ever read by her, but I find it just a little bit slow. I'm not really into the romance aspects of it. This book is following a brother from the first book, and he's an ex-hockey player because some things happened where he had to literally quit the team and go back to his hometown. And it's kind of like a redemption story. I did like that part. I did like the part where he ends up being a coach for the girls hockey team in the area, and I thought that was really cute. So that part I did really like, but I kind of found it a little bit like I read it, but like I don't remember too much about it. So those books kind of get like 3 stars because like I don't remember too much about it. So it was good, and I'm hoping to like the third book. So my first 4-star, which I think might be closer to 3.5, and that is How Not to Be a Vampire Slayer by Katie Bartels. So this is a secular middle grade book, and I really did enjoy it. Going into it, I was like, I like, for some reason, I like the Hotel Transylvania movies. I don't know why. I just think they're cute. So going into this, I figured I would enjoy it because of that, because this is about a girl who has who's part of a family of, it's in the title, vampire slayers, but she doesn't know that. So she ends up meeting a vampire, and she's the only one that can kind of sense them being there, for obvious reasons. So she goes into the woods where like nobody's allowed to go, and nobody actually like makes it into the woods. They always turn around and go back for certain reasons. So she ends up meeting a vampire when she goes into the woods, and this vampire is a vegetarian. So I loved that part. It was just cute. She's kind of like freaked out like for a second. She's like, oh. But like she's the type of girl who like doesn't get scared by scary movies or scary books. So, and that's why, because supposedly she's a vampire slayer. But then she meets her and she ends up becoming friends. So there's these cute parts where like, because this vampire has never left the woods, so her friend introduces her to like music, and she even introduces her to her new friends, and the friends are scared to death. But then they end up becoming friends with her, and I love that part. And I think it didn't get a higher rating because there were 1 or 2 instances where they did mention witches, and I'm like, really? Like I don't like books with witches in it. Like Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings I'm okay with, but it's like, really? So for that reason, it didn't get like a 4.5 or like a solid 4, but like it was like short instances where I was like, okay, like it's not enough to DNF. So I did continue it, and I did end up liking it. Just those parts I didn't. So thankfully it wasn't like a huge plot point in the book or anything. Otherwise I would have DNF'd it. But yeah, so other than that, I did enjoy it. It was pretty good. So probably closer to 3, but yeah. All right. Next up was I have a physical copy of this book. I'm like, when am I going to get to the physical copies of books here? Now we are. Okay. I know I had it. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Just passed on by it. All right. So I read The Prince and the Blight. It is the second book in the Dreamkeeper saga by Kathryn L. Butler. And I gave this one 4 stars. And I really enjoyed this one. So this one, we're following Lily, is it? Yeah, Lily. Again. And this almost can kind of be read as a standalone. Like she does go back to the dream kingdom or land, but it's an entirely different storyline. I would read the first book first anyways. But this one we're following where like the kingdom is slowly dying from this blight, and we don't know what's going on. And so she and her friends are sent to hopefully help and figure out and rebuild this kingdom. So third book is coming out later on this year, and I did a whole review on this, so I'll link it down below so you don't hear me rambling, but I did like it. I just wish they would like rechange the covers. just a hint, Crossway, but the Dreamkeeper Saga should be in small print, and the title should be in big print. I know I've heard one of my other friends talk about that, just because like the Dreamkeeper Saga, you feel as a title, because it's big, it's bold, but the title is like way down here in small print. And I just wish it was the opposite, because I feel like it would be a better viewed book that way. But anyway, but I did enjoy it, and I can't wait to read the second book, or third book. That's the second book. All right, so next one that was 4 stars was Code of Honor. I have to be honest with you, I've read so many books this month that I honestly need a refresher in my brain for this one. Because I read 2 Janice Cantori books this past month, and the other one got a higher rating. This one got 4 stars because I did still really enjoy it, but I don't remember too much about it. So this book is more heavily involved with kind of the hate towards the police, and there was like a police involved shooting where like a police officer is accused of a certain shooting, and it's all about this other detective who she got shot, and she pretty much wants to quit. She's like, I'm done, I don't want to get involved anymore, there's riots happening against the police and I just don't want to be involved with that anymore. But then she ends up like talking to a friend and realizing that even though like there's bad cops out there, but there's also amazing cops out there. And so she decides to go back and try to help discover what's going on and what's happening. And so I did really enjoy it. I just, for some reason, I can't remember too much about it. I think it's because I read her second book, and like the second book like knocked out the first book, even though I like both. I did enjoy both. So yeah, it was good. I do remember liking it. There is a mystery aspect, but there is a lot on like riots and stuff happening in the area. So definitely hit close to home, especially like the past couple of years. So it's like, wow, like I don't know if she's a prophetic writer or not, but yeah, so it was good. But her second book that I read was even better. So wait for that. All right, the next book that I read, now we can talk about that first book that I was talking about, which is The Blitz Bus by Glenn Blackwell. This was the first book before the Titanic Tunnel, and I loved The Blitz Bus. I gave it 4 stars. And this one follows our 2 kids where they first time travel, and they end up on a bus where they think they're going home. But the bus ends up having a big flash of light, and they find themselves back right before London gets bombed in World War II. And so they're pretty much all alone. They end up in the, what's it called? Subway tunnels. So they end up staying down there. The subway tunnels aren't up and running yet. They're just being built. But that's kind of the bomb shelter. And so they end up staying there. I like this because they didn't have anything provided. They had to find their own food. They had to learn how to survive on their own in a really hard situation when you don't have, not that the Titanic wasn't rough and hard, but you had your food, you had everything available for you. This one was more like they started with nothing. They had money, but not that time's money. So they had to literally figure out ways to earn money, like they didn't want to steal. So they had to find ways to get food, find ways to earn a job, and hopefully get money to try to get back on the bus to get home. But then their area where their bus was gets bombed. I don't think that could be a little bit of a spoiler, but so they have to kind of find a way to, it's like, oh no, how are we going to get home? That whole street is gone. Basically, like we have to either wait for it to be cleared or find another bus to try to get home. So I did really enjoy that one a lot more. They do meet friends throughout that book as well. And definitely I like the friendship aspect. These kids really needed friendship in the time that they were in. So that definitely helped. And I liked it. I really did. This was definitely I liked this book better than the second book. So, all right. On to my next 4-star, which was The Bungalow Mystery by Carolyn Keene. This is book number 3 in the Nancy Drew series, and I really enjoyed this one. So this is about a girl who Nancy meets, and this girl, her parents have died, and she's going to go live with her aunt and uncle, who she's never met before. Is it an aunt and uncle? It could be friends of her parents, but she's never met before. But when she finally meets them, it's like they're very, like, Nancy meets them before the girl does. So she doesn't even know. And this lady is extremely rude to Nancy. Like, she's got an attitude. She's rude to, I think they're at a hotel. So she's like rude to the hotel person first. She's like, I don't know who this lady is, but she's really rude. And then she finds out that this girl she met, that's the people who are supposed to take care of her. And then when they meet again, this like lady's all icky sweet and saying, oh, we're so happy to have you in our family. And yeah, there's some things going on that you don't know about. But yeah, that one was a good one. Definitely probably be one of my favorite Nancy Drew books that I've read. So it was a good one. All right, so the next one that is 4 stars was In Love's Time by Kate Breslin. I did a whole review on this book as well, so I'll link that down below. But this is about a woman who, she is a nurse, I believe, during the war, and her kind of like boyfriend, not fiance, but like she's kind of hoping it goes there. But he's like on a secret mission. He's a secret agent, and she knows that he works for the government, but she sees him get engaged to another woman. And she freaks out. She's like, what's going on? And then he ends up getting injured during his mission and ends up with amnesia. So he thinks he's in love with his fiancée, who may or may not be his real fiancé. And so she ends up being his nurse. She still loves him, you know, even if it's only friendship. And so she says, I'll be his nurse, his private nurse, and, you know, if he wants to go home to his family, I'll be his private nurse and help take care of him. And so this is more of a war romance than actually on the war. So if you don't like war stories, check this one out. It's definitely more on the romance side. It's definitely more just romance. A man who's kind of trying to heal, and he ends up finding, you know, a new, like, he doesn't even remember her. And so they end up forming a new friendship pretty much, and maybe new love. So definitely check it out. All right, I can put that one up there. It's finished. All right, the next 4, this was 4.5, and it might be on my favorites of the year, but I don't know. I don't even know if I can talk about it. Unspoken by Angela Hunt. So if you follow me on, no, I didn't share this on Instagram yet. I better though. On Goodreads. I never cried so much in my entire life in a book. Maybe I have once or twice, but I'm very hard to make cry. This one didn't. This is a book that I've told you that I wanted to read since last year. Kind of wish I waited longer. Because this literally, as I said in my Goodreads video, it tore out my heart, threw it across the room, and stomped on it. Because this was so heartbreaking. So heartbreaking. So if injury and death with animals triggers you, I would skip this. Because I don't think I get emotional with like domestic animals, but because wild animals are so close to my heart, this really bruised me for life. I honestly would love to reread it, and it would have been 5 stars except for the main character. I'm going to tell you why it wasn't 5 stars. Probably closer to 4 stars. Main character was a little annoying. A little bit. Because we're following her Glee, and she has taught this gorilla who she's had in her life for 8 years how to do sign language and how to try to comprehend and learning comprehension. And so she's doing this whole dissertation for her college degree as well, when the zoo who she got the gorilla from ends up calling her and saying, hey, we're going to have a lawsuit. We want our gorilla back. And basically you find out that they want the gorilla only because she knows sign language. So they kind of come to an agreement where if they take the gorilla back, she will be the caretaker, and she will be able to still work with our beautiful Seema, I think that's how you pronounce her name, gorilla, and still be able to work, but she'll work at the zoo again, because she used to work at the zoo until she started taking care of the gorilla at her own place. So she decides, okay, the only thing, either I'm going to have to work at the zoo, or they might take my gorilla away from me. So she ends up working at the zoo again, and just her attitude to the other zookeepers for a while was annoying to me. Like, she treated them pretty harshly, and so that part I didn't like. But I did like her redemption story by the end of the story, because she was not a Christian through most of the book. But we find this beautiful gorilla may have influence, and you know, God can use many creatures, including animals, to help us discover God's love in his creation. And so that's why I love this book so much. But there's definitely heartbreaking moments. I was literally sobbing, and I went to the living room to ask my mom, hey, can we play a game? Because like I just wanted to get it out of my head. And then I started bawling, and my mom was like, what's wrong? And I was like, this book wrecked me. Like, and she started crying because I was crying. And so so yeah, this book wrecked me so bad. I loved it, but then I also hated it. Like I wanted this book to go into a different direction at the end of the story. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it broke my heart. So yeah, but the ending, I understand kind of where the author came from. So yeah, if you want a very heartbreaking story, but also faith-filled and God's creation speaking out, definitely pick up Unspoken by Angela Hunt. It probably will be on my favorites of the year, but it did wreck me. All right, enough about that. Let's go into happier thoughts. All right, so the next one, we're going on to all of my 5-star reads. It's in the other room. Anyways, so my first 5-star read is The Rose and the Thistle by Laura Frantz. It's in my other room because it's now signed, because I talked to her, and I love her already. Like, I had one conversation with her, and we're like already friends. Like, she is just the sweetest, most lovely lady you ever want to talk to. Yeah, so she's amazing. She's wonderful. She's sweet. And yeah, so if you're watching this, hi Laura. I love The Rose and the Thistle. This was my first book by the author, and I loved it. It was just definitely a different historical time period. It's during the Jacobites in Scotland. Love Scottish history, so this is great. Yeah, so we're following this woman who she has to, her father is being accused of treason. And so he tells her, you have to go to my friend's house in Scotland to be safe. And so she ends up going from England to Scotland and then going to this man's house who ends up, his father passed away, and now he's charged with taking care of her, and he has no idea what to do with her. So he's like, great, the stranger in my house, and I don't want nothing to do with her. But then, of course, it's a historical romance, and things happen. But I did enjoy the romance. There was definitely some mystery and intrigue going on later on in the book, so definitely pick it up if you like more historical romance than anything. Like, I was just there for the romance. It was good. All right. Next book that I rated 5 stars. I remembered to get this book in the other room. But The Secret Society of Salzburg by Renee Ryan. So also, forgot to mention, Rose and the Thistle. I did a whole book review. I'll link everything down below. But anyways, The Secret Society of Salzburg by Renee Ryan. This is, I think, one of my first books that I read this year. This was actually a book that I also got from NetGalley, but again, I'm trying to catch up in my arcs. So this was one, and Renee kindly sent this to me, so thank you, Renee. But I really enjoyed this book. So I do, World War II historical fiction is definitely one of my favorites, and I love this one. So this is about is she Austrian? Yeah, Austrian opera singer named Elsa, and she ends up meeting a coming artist who is trying to be an artist, but she hasn't really gotten into the scene yet. But the artist ends up drawing her picture, and she wants to give it to her after she sings or before she sings. Could be before she sings. But she ends up giving it to her, and they end up becoming fast friends. They end up conversing through letters and trying to meet wherever she is singing. But then the Austrian singer, she ends up marrying a German sympathizer, which she doesn't know at the time. But she also, the Austrian singer and the artist, both in their own ways get involved with the resistance. And it's a heartbreaking story, and it's very emotional, but it was good. Very good. I love that this book was based more off of friendship than a romance. So yeah, this was definitely more historical fiction than historical romance. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. There was like small parts of romance, but not really. It's definitely more historical fiction. So really enjoyed it. And the cover is beautiful. Love that cover. All right. Next up is one that I just finished last night. Literally finished this book 5 minutes before midnight. I was like, yes, I got it in right before the buzzer. But yeah, so I was going to wait for next year to read this because it is a Christmas book. But then God reminded me, you have that book on your 5-star prediction video. Oh yeah, thanks God. So I had to read another Christmas book. I don't normally do that. I usually stop at the end of December and we're done. But I'm really glad I did because I really enjoyed this one. So this is Her Christmas Redemption by Tony Shiloh, and I bought this book and then I won it in a giveaway. So I returned my copy because I didn't even read it. It was only like not even a few days after I bought it. So I returned it and got this one, and I loved it. Oh, it was so cute. And yeah, like love inspired books, like yeah, they're definitely got that feel of Hallmark-y, but it was like a good Hallmark movie. It was good. So yeah, I have not read a love inspired book in years. So I'm happy to restart it back up because this one was a good one. So we're following Vivian, and Vivian has had a DWI, and she got arrested and sent to prison for 6 months, and she's out now. And so she's very skittish and very nervous, and she's like, what are people going to think of me if they find out? So she ends up not telling anyone, and she just wants a new start. She gave her life to Jesus in prison. She's now sober. She's been sober over 6 months. And so she goes to this little town where she ends up in a small town behind like this grocery store. He has like these little houses, or the tiny houses. And so she ends up moving there. She only has a 6 month lease, but she ends up deciding to stay there. And she's only allowed to go from there to her work, where she's a secretary at the church. And because they track her to make sure she's still staying sober for 6 months after she got out of prison, she has to breathe into a breathalyzer in her car, which I didn't even know that existed. I'm like, are you serious? Like, I didn't even know. Like, I'm learning new things. She has to breathe into a breathalyzer in the car to make the car start. I had no idea. But yeah, so she's only allowed to go from there to church and back. So basically she has to like either walk to other places or find an Uber or whatever in order to go anyplace else. So she ends up meeting this guy who owns the tiny houses and owns the grocery store, and she ends up getting thrown into a Christmas wishes program with the church, with the old secretary who's teaching her everything that she needs to know before she moves. And she says, hey, will you two do the Christmas wishes program, which basically they end up picking someone on the wishes list to bless with the money that they earn throughout the year. So they get thrown together. He doesn't want to do it because he's so busy with his work and everything, but she ends up saying, all right, I'll do it. Sounds fun. And I like this because like it teaches you, like he was telling her, you know, later on, like it's not about doing good works, like, and it wasn't even him, I think it was somebody else, but Jesus doesn't count our good works. Like once we accept Jesus as our Savior, that's it, it's done. Like he doesn't count how many blessings we bless with other people, you know. So I like that, and I like that it was a redemption story, and there's complications with people finding out, you know, what went on in her life, and something else goes on in the town that they blame her for. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, she's trying to figure out, should I stay in this town or should I not? So it's really good. I really enjoyed it. Friendship in this book as well. I liked it a lot. I love Tony. Tony's great. All right, I love Tony. All right, let's see, next book. I have this one too. Yes. All right. So the next one is my next Janice Cantori book, which I gave 5 stars to. Reach of Honor. I love this one. Wow. So heads up before I get into this book, it does have domestic abuse in it. It's in the beginning and then not really talked about. I liked her talk at the back. She actually mentioned she did work as a uniformed police officer, which I thought was really cool. So the author used to be a police officer, and her first kind of like instance of being like involved with the police was domestic abuse, and this lady comes in to her workplace, and so she talks about that and how, you know, it's close to her heart. And so this book, we find, I gotta remember names, Leah. So Leah is a police officer, and when she comes home one day, she ends up killing her husband, and everyone is blaming her that it is murder. And so she ends up going to prison for murder. And she has a friend in the police force who used to have a crush on her during her academy days. And so he's like, I don't believe she murdered him in cold blood. There's something else going on. So we try to find out, you know, what's going on behind the scenes. There's talk of dirty cops and some things that may or not her husband may have been involved with. And so, you know, she's in prison a long time. Like, honestly, this book surprised me. Like, I thought, oh, she's gonna get out within a couple months. No, it was a couple years that she was in prison while all this is going on. So it was a great book. I loved it. I love the suspense of it. It was definitely a new aspect, you know, that I loved. I really do. Like, it was great. And again, this was another redemption story where, like, she knew about God, but, like, she didn't really learn to trust him until she was actually in prison. So I love that. I just love this book. So check it out. This book will most likely be on my favorites. All right. Next book. Sorry for the long video. All right. Next one I gave 5 stars was The Sound of Light by Sarah Sundin. I did a whole review on this one as well, so I'll link it down below. But this is a World War I or World War II. It's right before World War II. We're following 2 different main characters. One's name is Henrique and the other one is Elsa. And Elsa is a doctor of, I know I'm going to forget. Is he a physicist? Yeah, physicist. Like, I remember. So she is a physicist. And Henrique is, like, he's like a dual, like, double agent kind of, but not really. Where, like, he is a baron who is basically presumed that he ran off to Sweden, I believe, but is basically living like a playboy's lifestyle. Like, he doesn't care about his dad or whatever, but he's secretly working at his dad's shipyards, and he's sending secret messages from in between Denmark and Sweden for the Allies. So nobody knows that. He grew a beard, his hair is longer, and he basically, like, you know, he's cultured and everything when he's a baron. So he has to kind of cut that down. So he's basically not speaking, not talking. So he's very quiet, very, you know, very quiet, just a big, gentle giant, I guess. Then Elsa meets him, and Elsa befriends him, even though she thinks, oh, I'm a physicist, you know, like, he doesn't even know how to read. But I love the friendship between the 2 characters and the romance that follows suit. But I liked that the romance was, like, kind of slow growing, and they were friends before, so I like that. But they both get involved with the resistance, and if you haven't picked up a Sarah Sundin book, please do, because her books are amazing. If you love like World War II era books, please pick up her books, because they are amazing. Enough said. All right. Next up is my last book that I have for physical copies, and I just finished this one on Sunday, I think. And this is Everything is Just Beginning by Erin Bartels. I did a review for this as well, so I'll link that. But this was a happy surprise of how much I love this book. This is great. I loved it. This had so many, like, music, like, I would say icons too, because, like, she mentions a lot of different music icons throughout the ages. This one takes place in the early 90s, and so I loved it. It was very, very good. It talks about forgiveness a lot, and the characters just felt true to life. Like, they had their own problems and their own issues, and I loved it. I loved the music references. I loved the characters, and just how this kid named Michael, you know, he pretty much is thrown out of his garage band and finds himself destitute, and then he meets this girl at a party, and he ends up befriending her, and they end up starting music together, and I just loved it. It was great. So pick it up. Loved it. All right. Next up is 2 more books. That's it. We're almost done. Sorry for I never realized that I read so much until, like, closer to, like, the 3rd week, and I'm like, I really should have done a halfway through the month video, because there's a lot of videos or a lot of books. a lot of videos. All right, next up is When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Mayer. And this was 5 stars as well. And just, I heard so many things about this book last year. Most everybody seemed to really, really love it. There is mention of marital, I guess you would say marital assault, I guess. I mean, yeah. I'm trying to find the best word for it, but yeah, so I guess, I don't want to say it, because, like, but yeah, you get what I mean. I hope. But yeah, so if that triggers you, don't read it. It happens twice, but it doesn't go into big detail, so that's good. But I really enjoyed this different aspect of time travel. It's a time travel, and it's a romance. And the ending went the way I wanted it to, so I was like, yes! Like, I just knew it. I'm like, I know. So, thankfully it did. But I loved it, and so this girl, she lives 2 timelines. She lives, I don't remember the exact dates, but it's like early 1900s and late 1700s. One in colonial area, Virginia, I think. I don't know about that. And also in London, in that area. So she has 2 lifetimes, basically. So what she does is she has one timeline where she was born, and her mom and her grandmother, great grandmother, etc., have a mark on their heart. It's like a sunburst, and if anyone has that, lives 2 timelines. And so by their 21st birthday, or on their 21st birthday, they get to decide what timeline they want to stay in for the rest of their life. So each day she wakes up in another timeline. So one day here, one day there, but no time passes in between. So it's like she wakes up and, it's the kind of the same day. So she lives like 40 years instead of 20 years, basically. So she already knows what timeline she wants. She wants to stay in the 1700s with the mother that she loves, who has the sunburst on her heart, and with her sisters. And the other timeline isn't that great because her mother wants her to get married. She's kind of forcing her to get into a marriage, and she doesn't want to. She just wants to go home. But then things start to happen where she needs to make a decision, where, she's got to trust in God, that and God's plan, that it's going to be good for her no matter what timeline she's in. So I really loved it. The ending was great, and there's a sequel coming out. I can't wait. Okay, so anyways, all right. And then the last book that got 5 stars was The Heart of the Mountains by Paperbacks. I love pepper now. It just sounds funny. It's like you love the seasoning, but Pepper is amazing. This is only my 2nd book by the author, and I already love her. She is so great. This is a sequel to Laurel's Dream, which I read last month, and let me tell you, both of these books are going to be in my favorites of this year, because so good. So in this sequel, we're following the sister of the man in the first book, and she is running away from an arranged marriage in England, and so she ends up going to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and so she's like, I'm just gonna run away and visit my brother. Like, he's written me all these letters on how great it is and everything, and then she gets there, and so many things go wrong, and she's like, my brother never mentioned this in his letters to me, and I don't laugh in books either. I don't laugh and I don't cry, but this one really made me chuckle in a lot of lines. They were cute and funny. The romance between our 2 characters was just so sweet and so romantic, and I loved it. It was great. If you love kind of that old, like, Western era feel, I loved it. It was a sweet romance that I will definitely be thinking about for a time to come, because I loved it. And definitely thank you, Pepper, for writing this. I'm really hoping that she writes a 3rd book because it was great, and if she does, I will definitely be reading it. So yeah, that was my last book. loved it. It was an amazing reading month. I'll show you some of the books that I have physically. Besides all the other ones. We gotta get rid of that one though in the middle. That one's gonna fall. Not that one, that one. Alright. So sorry for the longness of this video. It was very long, but these are the books that I have physically. So it was a great reading month. I got so much reading done. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, sorry it was so long, but I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read any of these or any of these sound interesting to you. I love to talk with you in the comments because you all are amazing friends, and I love talking books with you. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.